We find that it really helps people feel safe and confident to step into that journey. So when you're doing Sound Self, the visuals through the optic neurostimulation, it feels like, in some ways, like a psychedelic, intense psychedelic journey where there's lots of geometric fractal patterns. I'm Sandeep Prakash, co-founder and chief scientific officer of Sound Self. I'm a psychologist by training. I did my master's and PhD at California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco. I went to CIS to specialize in psychedelic research and the study of non-ordinary states of consciousness through dance, meditation, music. We're very just curious about trance and the healing potential for non-ordinary states. CIS specializes in that from an anthropological perspective, but also from a psychotherapeutic perspective. I was emerging from my PhD and I discovered Sound Self and started to collaborate with the initial developer of Sound Self, Robin Arnott. Sound Self actually started as a virtual reality. Now it uses light therapy glasses where your eyes are closed. The core innovation that the system has achieved is a sort of out-of-body experience where you're both in the body and out of body at the same time. In the psychedelic therapy process, we are trying to investigate what are these habitual ways that we might be reacting to stressors. And we can start doing that with Sound Self by going into a space of relaxation and safety without falling asleep completely. And that's that sort of sweet spot where we can maintain a gentle attention while in being very, very relaxed. Sound Self is inspired by chanting traditions that has been used for millennia by humans to achieve altered states of consciousness, to achieve a sense of peace, and to explore both individually and as a group states of consciousness. So it was initially developed with this mindset of how can we bring ancient traditions and indigenous traditions as well and fuse them with the best of neuroscience and psychotherapy and bring that into the psychedelic therapy context. Essentially, it's designed for psychedelic therapy to help people in the journey of preparation and integration. Some people think you can just take a psychedelic and heal from all your problems, and that's clearly not the case. There's a lot of considerations around how to best do psychedelics. Even with ketamine, it's something that it requires a lot of education that just isn't there. And so what we're trying to do with Sound Self is provide a technology that helps people in that preparation integration process so that they can go into a non-ordinary state of consciousness without any substances, without any drugs. It makes it very accessible to step into that healing journey. It makes it just a little bit softer, a little bit greater feeling of safety and confidence. Sound Self uses light therapy glasses, headphones and microphone, and a vibroacoustic bed that you lay down on, and invites the user to start vocal toning or producing long vowel tones like ah. Relaxed inhalation, and then you tone again. So as you're doing this, the system is intelligently listening to your voice and generating an audiovisual world based on your own voice. So it feels like your own voice is propelling a psychedelic journey just for yourself. There's a feeling of safety, feeling of adventure, and it feels fun, but it can also put you into a state that as you go deeper and deeper into it, it's an opportunity for self-inquiry. So psycho-emotional content could arise, memories can arise. The glasses have LEDs and your eyes are closed. And so it's actually your brain that's creating the visuals. Throughout the experience, the glasses will be flashing at certain rates. What that's doing is called brainwave entrainment. So your voice is ah, and as you're doing that, it'll be flickering and it kind of playfully interacting with your voice. But at the same time, it's taking you into theta, beta, gamma states of consciousness and brainwave states. So you have the light therapy glasses, you have a headphone and it has a microphone attached to it, and that's powered by a computer. And Sound Self lives on that computer and is running this whole system, and it's running the vibroacoustic bed that you're laying on. facilitator will be helping with all this, but they'll put the glasses on after they explain everything to you. Put the headphones on with the microphone. You'll hear a guide's voice, and the guide will start a meditation, a guided meditation, and he'll say, you can tone along with me now. And you'll start toning along with the guide, and at a certain point he'll say, that's great, keep going, I'll see you on the other side. And from there on out, you're just toning with the system for sessions range between 30 to 45 minutes. It takes you deeper and deeper into a deeper state of consciousness, and there's a closing meditation. So in the beginning and end, there's the guide, and that's where there's psychoeducational content as well. What we found is that Sound Self is not directive. People sometimes might imagine it to be like a guided meditation where they would just put on headphones and passively listen to it. It's actually a paradigm shift in how we can modulate people's interoception, sense of embodiment, how they inhabit the body habitually. So it does this through a few different mechanisms. One is to fall into a tone and rhythm of toning that works best for them. They might start session 1 and they get pleasantly surprised at how relaxed they get. But by the time they do session 2 or 3, they realize, oh, I thought I was relaxed in session 1, but I can get even more and more relaxed. Because it's just like going to the gym or a meditation practice. It takes practice. If I'm toning, the music will be based on that pitch. If I'm toning, the music will be based on that pitch. We do take people through a sonic journey that goes through harmonic changes. So we look into, just like how music is moving because there is this concept of tension and resolution. There's tension in the harmonies, whether it's through a chord or whether it's through the rhythm, and then it resolves. And then it goes back into the tension. It's this continuous cycle, and that's what makes music exciting. So we looked into traditional science of musicology, but as well as indigenous approaches to ceremony, using ayahuasca during ceremony. There's music is an important part of that. One of our advisors is actually brings an indigenous component. He works in Guatemala as an ayahuasquero, but he's one of our advisors because his gift in ayahuasca work, or his specialty, is working with sound and music. That is a core component of it. So as you're toning, the system is generating music based on your tone. So you're not adapting to what the system is wanting you to do. So every body, every type of voice is welcome into the Sound Self experience. We're trying to make it as universal as possible. Going into deep self-inquiry that is multidimensional. From transpersonal psychology and from integral psychology, we have this concept of multidimensionality, which simply means that our psychology is not just cognitive. It's embodied, it's sensual, it's emotional, there's expansive consciousness states. There's also states where it's in the body, in the chest, heartfelt. Anything that might be emerging in your psyche can come into consciousness. So typically, we're going about our lives where so much is happening in our unconscious. That might come out in dreams. That might come out in interactions we have that might not be pleasant. Sound Self brings people into a state of consciousness that is right above sleep, but it's not as full waking everyday consciousness. So you're becoming more and more relaxed as you're toning, as the lights are flickering at different stages throughout the experience. And you'll go into a theta state where there is the default mode network, which is a network in the brain that is responsible for our sense of self-consciousness and is responsible for our internal dialogue that we have with ourselves, that it seems like it's always happening. Sound Self kind of turns that a little bit down so that we're open to what might be arising in the moment, in the unconscious, from our body. In our professional software update that's coming out in next month, there's 3 preparation modes and 3 integration modes. We talk to psychedelic therapists and ask them what are their concerns, what are their challenges when starting with a client in the psychedelic therapy process. How do they best approach preparation methods? How do they best approach integration? And so we took what we learned and put that into a protocol. So it's a Sound Self protocol that's used with ketamine and a psychedelic assisted psychotherapy. So there's 3 preparation modes that go into themes like feelings of peace and unity, but also they go into themes like challenges and how to surrender to a challenging experience. And so what the result is, people feel much less anxious going into a medicine journey than they would otherwise. They're also prepared in a psycho-emotional way that is hard to achieve through didactic teaching methods. So it's really a deep embodied experience of going into an altered state of consciousness and practicing being in a flow state in that, and practicing surrendering to that state of consciousness systematically before you even take ketamine or MDMA or psilocybin. We find that it really helps people feel safe and confident to step into that journey. So when you're doing Sound Self, the visuals through the optic neurostimulation, it feels like, in some ways, like a psychedelic, intense psychedelic journey where there's lots of geometric fractal patterns. So the lights are flickering at different rates throughout the experience. As you're toning, you're like, ah, fractal patterns will come into your vision that your brain is creating. It feels very captivating. One of the effects of this in the brain is to captivate your attention so much that it's hard for intrusive thoughts to come in. Oftentimes when we learn mindfulness, we'll have intrusive thoughts that come in, kind of pull us away from that sense of steady, calm attention. What Sound Self achieves is being able to go into a mindfulness state without much practice. It's quite extraordinary to be able to experience a state of consciousness that normally would take 10, 15, 20 years of meditation practice. Sound Self is a great introduction to psychedelic-assisted psychotherapy, because you're able to go into a non-ordinary state of consciousness without anything that you ingest. So the benefit of this is that you're in control the whole time. You can take the glasses off if you feel uncomfortable. You can take the headphones off if you feel uncomfortable and stop the experience. Most people don't. Once they get into it, they find that it has a level of intensity that they're able to modulate their sense of surrender of that intensity as time goes by in the experience. And they come to really enjoy this feeling of letting go and surrendering to the flow of the experience. Sound Self is a biofeedback and optic neurostimulation technology that is evidence-based and has extensive research that informs its design, as well as how it's implemented in psychedelic and ketamine therapy context. The first studies on Sound Self were an EEG study that showed how Sound Self changed brain patterns compared to a sham VR-guided meditation. People who did Sound Self had better levels of mood. The EEG showed that their default mode network activity was reduced, much more than the VR meditation. As well as a study that showed that Sound Self dramatically improves people's symptoms of depression, anxiety, as well as trains people in mindfulness and psychological well-being. Those studies were done at the start of the company. During those 2.5 years since we started the company, research has been a main focus of ours, to explore how Sound Self can be used in a psychedelic therapy and ketamine therapy context, as well as looking into how we can improve the core technology of Sound Self for specific mental health disorders. Sound Self was studied in a ketamine context, in a study that looked at Sound Self as an adjunctive intervention to ketamine and esketamine for people with treatment-resistant depression and severe anxiety. People were undergoing ketamine and esketamine treatment and doing Sound Self as a preparation and integration tool. Instead of just taking ketamine, by doing Sound Self, they're learning skills that they can take with them in their everyday life. Sound Self empowers the person with endogenous skills of being in the body, of mindfulness, that helps you, just relax, feel like you're resilient in the face of stressors. Sound Self help people reducing symptoms of depression and anxiety, as well as improve sleep over time. Sound Self is affecting deep change over time, also improves with the amount of sessions that you do. Sound Self is also being studied in a variety of external studies, one at the University College London Centre for Psychedelic Research, looking at how it's used in helping people with a sense of creativity in LSD microdosing. We're seeing great results with Sound Self being implemented by ketamine clinics and in psychedelic therapy contexts for preparation and integration, as well as taking a low dose of ketamine and making it into a much deeper, impactful, transcendent experience. Especially in the preparation stage, physicians might encounter people who are rightly and understandably have this apprehension to go into something they've never tried before. That involves experiential healing, where they're going into an experience that lasts for a certain amount of time that they're not sure what they're getting into. So Sound Self helps with that by providing a non-drug, non-ordinary state experience, a non-drug psychedelic experience. Sound Self is agnostic to the type of therapy that's used. In fact, we have practitioners that bring a variety of approaches and therapeutic orientations into the psychedelic therapy process. Some might have for example, a focus on internal family systems, or some might have more of a somatic or spiritual or mystical focus. Sound Self is more about empowering the person in their everyday journey as they're approaching the medicine journey and after the medicine journey. Like, what now? How do I make use of these insights or make use of these new feelings and sensations that emerged during my psychedelic experience? The preparation stages of Sound Self is 3 preparation modes, and the first one is all about story. The guide invites the person to go into your personal story of why are you going through this psychedelic therapy process? What is meaningful for you right now? And then it goes into other themes like sense of peace, also surrendering to an intense experience. So you get to practice that before even taking the psychedelic. After you go through the psychedelic experience, then there's integration modes that help deepen those insights and help you integrate that into your life. The psychedelic experience and psychedelic medicines are very important to all of us at Sound Self. Sound Self was initially conceptualized by Robin Arnott, who is a game developer. And he had a question when he was working on games in virtual reality for himself, and which is, how can I produce games that have a positive impact on humanity, on people's mental health and their physical health? Robin had a vision during an LSD experience of the core mechanism of Sound Self, which is your voice generating a psychedelic world. So, generating this audiovisual world. From that seed of inspiration, which happened many years ago, Robin has been working on the core technology of Sound Self for more than a decade now. Our current team, Psychedelics, is hugely important in how we approach our personal lives, as well as how we approach Sound Self, the technology. I use Sound Self as part of an MDMA-assisted psychotherapy process where I was meeting with my therapist. I was wanting to explore how I can go deeper into the process. So I used Sound Self before I traveled out to meet him to do the medicine journey. And that helped me be really clear of what my intentions were. I had never done MDMA before. I felt a little bit of apprehension, well, what's it gonna be like? Sound Self helped me just let that go and trust in the process. After the MDMA experience, I had this insight of all welcomingness. So MDMA is very reliably produces a state in which one has this gentle shift into sitting in a sense of self, sitting in a sense of core self, which has these qualities of all welcoming anything that might come into the psyche. Sound Self, as used in the integration process with my own MDMA journey, was very helpful in how I could sit with that feeling and not just let that escape. It was a very beautiful, sweet experience, and Sound Self let me re-enter that and explore more how I can embody that more in my life. Sound Self also actively collaborates with sound designers and an ayahuasquero based in Guatemala as part of our technology design and technology development. And so the sense of ceremony craft, or a ritual experience in which we go into a non-ordinary state of consciousness, is taken very seriously. So we like to say that we are trying to fuse the best of indigenous approaches and shamanic approaches with neuroscientific and psychotherapeutic approaches. Psychedelics has a profound potential for impacting mental health. A lot of admiration for Pearl participating in the MAP studies, in which they had subjects come here to do MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD. I am excited to see how we can integrate Sound Self into the integration process with participants who have done MDMA as part of a MDMA-assisted psychotherapy process. There's can be a desire to kind of go back into the experience to revisit some of the insights by going into a non-ordinary state of consciousness that Sound Self provides. So we're excited to see how that might work. What is the experience of people who participated in the MAPS trials for MDMA-assisted psychotherapy to come back and deepen their integration process with Sound Self? So we're looking into seeing how we could do research there. Pearl Institute, they provide ketamine as well as Sound Self, which can be used as a standalone device for people who may not want to try ketamine yet. They can come and do Sound Self to go into a deep state of consciousness, to feeling much more relaxed, to be more mindful, and go into a space of self-inquiry, similar to ketamine and other psychedelics, but in a much more approachable, accessible, and a gentler way. Sound Self is also used in conjunction with ketamine at Pearl Psychedelic Institute. As part of the preparation and integration process, people can do sessions of Sound Self to begin their journey, to start stepping into the psychedelic process with questions they might have and exploring that during Sound Self, as well as using Sound Self to prepare for the ketamine journey.
Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channel.
You can reach us at www.soundself.com. We have an inquiry form right there. We get those every day to our email inbox, so feel free to go to our website, soundself.com. Feel free to get in touch with me directly at Sandeep, S-A-N-D-E-E-P, @soundself.com. Feel free to email me if you have any questions about Sound Self. If you'd like to try it out and you're here in the Western North Carolina area, contact the Pearl Psychedelic Institute and they'd be happy to introduce you to Sound Self and the innovative treatments they're doing here.